Tyler Perry didn't just knock on Meghan Markle's door, he opened his mansion to her. When the royal escape plan was still fresh, when the Sussexes had just cut ties with the palace and the press was hunting them like bloodhounds, Perry offered more than shelter. He gave them protection, legitimacy, and Hollywood credibility. That kind of loyalty isn't just rare, it's almost mythic. But fast forward to today, and Perry isn't whispering concerns over quiet dinners. He's shouting into a microphone, "Pay back my money." And that single sentence has done more damage to Meghan's public image than any tabloid headline ever could. Because this isn't just about a rich man wanting his check. This is about betrayal. Perry wasn't just a landlord, he was an insider. He sat with them during their Netflix docuseries. He stood by them publicly when critics tore into their every move. So when he goes public with a $16 million accusation tied to Meghan's passion project, it lands differently. It tells the world, even your closest allies think you're a financial mess. Now let's talk about the brand at the center of it all. As ever, it was supposed to be Meghan's empire. The branding was polished, elegance meets empowerment, with whispers of sustainability and social impact. Think Goop, but with a royal dusting. The problem? The hype didn't match the hustle. The products were overpriced, the message confused, the execution a misfire. And when the receipts started leaking, the numbers were brutal. $16 million in unpaid expenses. That's not a bad month, that's a sinking ship. Insiders say the biggest red flag wasn't the flop itself, but how it flopped. Instead of building slowly, testing the waters, Meghan reportedly went full diva mode from day one. 5-star venues, private jet launches, celebrity stylists flown in from across continents. She was spending like she'd already built a billion-dollar empire before she'd sold a single serum. One insider summed it up, she acted like the next Estee Lauder, but the public wasn't buying it, literally. And Tyler Perry? Turns out he wasn't just a well-wisher. He allegedly poured in support, resources, logistics, maybe even financial backing. Now that the numbers don't add up, he's not staying silent. He wants repayment. Publicly. Loudly. And the optics are devastating. If Tyler Perry, the man who risked backlash to host the royals, is calling out Meghan's business moves, it sends a clear signal. Her Hollywood fairy tale is falling apart. Worse still is how quickly the industry turned cold. Executives, distributors, even e-commerce platforms that once courted her, quietly began distancing themselves. Retailers started pulling as ever off shelves. One producer reportedly said, "If Perry can't get his money back, what chance do the rest of us have?" It wasn't just the brand that looked unstable. Meghan herself was being seen as toxic, overpromising, underdelivering, and burning bridges at light speed. And as all of this played out, social media did what it always does, turned pain into punchlines. Hashtags like #DebtDuchess and #PaybackPrincess trended. TikTok stitched Perry's infamous "Pay Back My Money" over Meghan's old empowerment speeches. Meme pages renamed the brand as Never. What was once marketed as a trailblazing movement now looked like a meme-worthy flop. For Meghan, this is no longer just about money. It's about credibility. It's about a dream slipping through her fingers. And as Perry's demand keeps echoing online, the question that remains is simple. How did it all fall apart so fast? When Tyler Perry went public, it was like someone lit a match in a room full of gas. Hollywood insiders, brand partners, even fans who once defended Meghan Markle, scrambled to create distance. No one wanted to be the last person standing next to a failing brand, especially one drowning in $16 million of unpaid bills. And what made it worse? Perry wasn't just another investor. He was someone who vouched for her character. If even he is done, what did that say about her standing in the industry? Behind the scenes, the panic was real. Retail partners who had signed early agreements with as ever were suddenly calling their lawyers. Quiet exit clauses were triggered. PR firms went silent. One boutique distributor reportedly said, "We don't just sell products, we sell image." And Meghan's image is toxic right now. Even platforms that had stocked the brand online began quietly shadow removing listings. It wasn't a scandal. It was an eraser. Slow. Methodical. Devastating. And yet, the $16 million wasn't even the scariest part for Meghan. The real nightmare was watching her brand become a laughingstock. On TikTok, creators spliced her old interviews with Perry's "Pay Back My Money" to create viral edits. Instagram pages once filled with glowing tributes to her activism were now flooded with memes. As ever had become as never. A dream that began with luxury candles and empowerment messaging had collapsed into a punchline shared over morning coffee. Insiders close to the brand say Meghan refused to accept the warning signs. When data showed weak sales, she reportedly blamed marketing. When distributors suggested cheaper packaging or simplified designs, she pushed back, insisting the brand had to feel high-end. She clung to a vision of a glamorous empire, a kind of Oprah meets Diana legacy. But she skipped the part where you build something people actually want. That stubbornness cost her dearly. Meanwhile, Tyler Perry wasn't mincing words. He didn't take the quiet route. Sources say he felt personally burned, that his name had been tied to the brand, whether officially or not, and now he was being dragged down by association. So, he spoke up, loudly. The words "pay back my money" cut deeper than any lawsuit. They weren't just about cash. They were about pride, about betrayal, about respect. And the press ate it up. Headlines exploded. Podcasts dissected every angle. Talk shows mocked the situation with late-night skits. For someone who had fought so hard to control her image, Meghan was suddenly watching it spiral in real time. Worse, it wasn't being driven by tabloids. It was being driven by her former inner circle. That stung more than anything the British press ever printed. Behind closed doors, people who had once been on Team Meghan were reportedly jumping ship. One celebrity stylist admitted, "I believed in her, but she's hard to work with. She doesn't listen." A marketing director who had consulted on as ever revealed, the branding was gorgeous, no doubt. But there was no soul. It felt like a copy of a copy. Pretty on the outside, empty inside. At the center of all this chaos, Meghan stayed silent. No statement. No apology. No rebuttal. And that silence spoke volumes to the public. It didn't look like dignity. It looked like guilt. Like she had nothing to defend because the truth had already been laid bare. Her empire was collapsing, and all she could do was watch. Tyler Perry's words didn't just hurt Meghan financially, they shattered the illusion she had spent years building. She was no longer the powerhouse entrepreneur. No longer the rebranded duchess breaking away from monarchy with a glittering empire in her hands. She was now the punchline of Hollywood, a cautionary tale about what happens when image runs ahead of substance. The damage wasn't just reputational. It was irreversible. Behind the glossy press releases and camera-ready smiles, as ever had been on shaky ground from day one. The products barely moved. Inventory sat untouched in expensive warehouses. While the team scrambled to rebrand failure as exclusivity, high-end packaging, lavish photo shoots, and influencer partnerships couldn't disguise the truth. People weren't buying. Critics saw right through it. The language of empowerment felt empty. The luxury aesthetic felt forced. Nothing felt authentic. And Meghan's refusal to adapt only accelerated the downfall. Insiders say she brushed off feedback, rejected calls to scale down, and insisted on burning through budgets as if the brand were already a household name. Every launch had to feel like a royal gala. Every campaign had to sparkle like a Vanity Fair cover. She wanted to sell elegance, but in the process, she sold nothing. Meanwhile, Perry's fallout had a ripple effect. Industry voices who once stayed neutral began speaking out. One producer admitted, "Off the record, we all saw it coming. It was a matter of when, not if." Talent managers warned clients to steer clear. Brand consultants even used as ever as a case study of what not to do. Meghan, who once walked red carpets and gave empowerment speeches, was now boxed into a harsher narrative: reckless spender, poor leader, burning through goodwill like cash. Even her staunchest defenders struggled to spin the situation. Social media turned brutal. Fans who had once posted threads of support deleted them, or worse, replaced them with mockery. One viral tweet read, "She left the palace for freedom and ended up chained to debt." Others pointed out the irony. Meghan had once branded herself as the face of financial independence, only to end up indebted to the very man who once saved her. And then came the silence. The brutal, suffocating silence from her camp. No press release. No clarifying Instagram post. No soft focus sit-down with Oprah. Nothing. That vacuum of response gave everyone else the power to write the story for her. In the absence of defense, speculation flourished. Was the $16 million all Perry's money? Were other silent investors about to speak out? Had Meghan and Harry used funds meant for other projects? Nobody knew the details, but everyone assumed the worst. Hollywood, as always, moved on quickly, but not before making an example of her. Within weeks, as Ever's digital presence began to vanish. The website went dark. Social media accounts fell silent. Collaborations were cancelled without explanation. It was as if the brand had never existed. And in some ways, maybe it never truly did. It had always been a fantasy, a projection of what Meghan wanted the world to see.
But now the illusion was gone.
All that was left was debt, and the echo of "pay back my money." For someone who once stood at the altar of Windsor Castle, who shook hands with presidents and dined with Hollywood's elite, the fall wasn't just steep. It was total. The girl who once dreamed of being a princess had reinvented herself as a businesswoman, only to be exposed by the very man who once gave her shelter.
And the final blow? It didn't come from the press. It didn't come from the palace.
It came from someone who once believed in her.